How y'all doing? I'm Brian Sellers. I'm with SICK Incorporated. We are a manufacturer of sensors for factory automation, and we do a lot in the mobile platform world. And my very good friend here, who has been kind enough to give me an all-access pass into the bowling alley. Who am I talking to here?
Jeff Huerta, I'm the SVP of Sales for Vecna. Welcome to Vecna headquarters.
Thank you.
You're downstairs in our building, and where the brain trusts do all the work and testing for our vehicles.
I appreciate y'all letting me come up to the north here. You know, people think I talk funny up here.
You do.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
That's all right.
All right. Anyway, all right, we'll go on. So, all right, Vecna is one of the, I would say y'all are one of the OGs. You know, I mean, y'all been doing this for a minute.
We have been.
We were talking about that.
Yes.
So what did you say? Because we were asking the question. So how long? Like one of the things we're talking about is maybe like talking about our relationship, the two companies, not us personally. Although our personal relationship is back a ways, and it is important. Yes, it is important. But what are we going on? Is this like 10 years of partnership?
Yeah, it could be even longer. Well, thank you, Brian, for coming into our building. You're at Vecna HQ. You're going to see some robots running in the background. But, you know, for us, we've been doing robots for over 20 years. A lot of different areas we touched in those 20 years. But I would say we focused on autonomous mobile robots probably around that 2013, 14 line. So it's about 10 years in this space. And, yeah, we've been partnered with SICK with that throughout the whole time, especially in the safety realm.
Yeah, and 10 years flies, man.
You're telling me.
What's going to happen in the next 10 years, you know? I mean, how are things going to change? And that's not really a question I want you to answer, but...
I'm thinking about it.
Oh, well, tell me. Okay, we've been backwards 10 years. What's going to happen in the next 10 years?
Yeah, you know, the space is changing. I've been a part of it for a long period of time. At first, in autonomous mobile robots, it was like closed systems, always got to run autonomous, no people in the loop. Now that's changed. These are connected devices. People are in the loop. We're working with people and robots. So as it evolves, it's not just about being robots and people. It's how they work together.
Go into a closed system again for the layman.
For the layman, like a closed system. Like 10 years ago, people would put technology in a building and the vendor itself wouldn't have a connection to it. They wouldn't have the ability to understand what's going on in there. It's really the best it would perform was when the day that it was installed. And now with cloud-based platforms, it's a connected device. So we understand with our customers how we can improve the sites, where there could be concerns or issues, and help the technology evolve and the site evolve for the customer.
So are you seeing more interaction then with, we'll say, with the vehicles and with humans, with their coworkers?
Yeah, I trying to take people out of technology isn't the right answer. It's people and technology working together within buildings to make sure we're at the highest productivity. That's what companies want, and make people's lives work better for that work in the warehouse, you know? Technology is meant to allow people to do things with their minds and be a part of a fully holistic solution with technology.
Gotcha. So when I look at these vehicles, I've heard the terms AGV, I've heard the terms AMR, I've heard the term IMR, AGC. For those of us that maybe don't live this world every day, please tell me what the difference is. What you think is the fundamental difference between an AMR and an AGV?
AGV. Okay, good question.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, it is. You know, get one or two a day.
Great question.
So AGVs, automated guided vehicles. Automated guided vehicles have been around for 60, 70 years. I mean, they just follow a path. 60, 70 years ago, it was more of a hardware path. Like there was a wire in the ground or a digital highway or a hard highway, like a rail in the ground. Automated guided vehicles. It was following some guidance system where it's like, hey, I'm just going to really focus on that path itself and do that day in and day out. Where autonomous mobile robots, it's really allowing the technology to guide throughout the building without a dedicated path, being able to go around obstacles, being able to understand its surrounding and do something useful with that information and make its own decisions.
Go around obstacles.
Correct, yeah.
What's an obstacle? I mean...
Man, you're an obstacle. A person, trash can, a forklift, anything can be an obstacle. A warehouse is a chaotic place where, you know, it just depends. Like if something's in front of it, I understand what that is, if it's static or dynamic, and have the ability to reroute myself down that same highway, just taking it. It's like avoiding a pothole in a road. You know, you see it, you're still going to drive down the road. You're just going to go around it.
Gotcha. But if I think you were kind of being funny. You're at least trying to be when you said I'm an obstacle, but you're not wrong.
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, if people were predictable, this would be a lot easier game to solve, but people aren't. So, you know, a person can stand in front of the robot. We'll show that later and be able to, our robots have the ability to make a decision and drive around us. But that is a common obstacle in any warehouse, because you're never going to get rid of foot traffic. We need people to run these warehouses and be a part of that environment.
So if I'm an AGV and you get in my way, I'm going to stop.
You're going to win. The AGV is going to win that steering contest.
It's okay. Yeah, but an AGV should stop.
Oh,
right?
Let's go. Yeah,
an AGV will stop. It wouldn't hit you.
It wouldn't hit you.
But I'm not going to start moving again until you AMScray, right?
Yeah, exactly. If that person weren't to move, they were, like I said, the AGV is going to win that steering contest.
Okay.
In our world, we have the ability to identify that you're an obstacle and say, hey, let's look around us and see what clear path we can reassign to and go from there.
So it just keeps moving, but it's going to figure out its own path to get around.
That is one of many different things that make an AMR and AGV. An AMR also, in our case, we have the ability to look at the pallets that we pick up, identify it as a pallet and adjust to it, where an AGV just goes to identified position. And just if it's a pallet there, great, it's going to pick it up and away it goes. But there's a lot of different things. But it's a common term. It's a lot of people. Part of educating yourself about technologies, understanding AGV, AMR, all the different terminologies.
Gotcha. So, okay, AMRs. Why now?
Why now?
Why are they important? In today, August of 23, why are they important?
Yeah, of 2023. Like 10 years ago, looking into this type of technology, labor shortage wasn't that big of a deal, right? It really wasn't. It's not the highlights of your news, but the highlights of the news even today, even after the pandemic, is finding people to do this type of work in warehousing is becoming more and more scarce. There's a lot of other opportunities for people. So, and this is driving a forklift isn't a job that everyone seeks out. You know, picking up a pallet, driving it a distance, putting it down. You know, you're not using your mind, and in those circumstances, that's something that's great for us. We don't need to use our mind. You know, it's a robot doing it, picking a pallet, driving a distance, dropping a pallet, and using the labor that they have today, keeping that intact within a warehouse and allowing us to do the low-level work.
And forklifts are heavy, and they move heavy objects.
They are.
And when they get going, they're a big bowling ball of steel that's just rolling down. June is National Forklift Safety Month.
You reminded me of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how are these, when we talk about forklift safety, we talk about human drivers and all that stuff.
Are you trying to get to you guys?
Dude, I'm just saying. I mean, yes, in a lot of ways.
No.
But also, I mean, tell me more about that. When someone is using forklifts, and I got a bunch of drivers, I don't need your stuff.
Yeah, it's a good point. Safety is a key aspect of all AMR technology. In the case of our vehicles, we leverage your technology, SICK equipment, with not just the sensor peripherals, but also the safety controller to ensure safety and get it PLD rated, and to allow us to be confident within all warehouses that we can work in a safer environment, which allows us to always be looking, which is not common with people, right? People make mistakes. Car accidents happen every day. Forklift accidents happen all day or every day. So, in the case of us, we're always looking compared to people, because that's where the error comes.
I mean, doing that for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 7 days a week, it's a law of averages.
Yeah.
Something's probably going to happen. We have to have a whole month about it to remind us about it.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's funny. I go into warehouses on a weekly basis, and the first thing every customer reminds me of is safety around forklifts, because it's something that happens. It's something that the only way you can to mitigate is talk about.
What are you say you go into warehouses every week? Let's talk about that. These customer visits, when you're going to talk about customers, one of the things that, at least from our aspect as a manufacturer, we often get asked, well, what's possible? So what are, and without revealing any trade secrets or any NDAs or anything like that, Like, what are some of the applications that people are wanting to do with these things? I mean, I talk about, okay, we're going to move pallets.
Yeah.
Why? Why do we need to do that?
So, I mean, if you think about warehousing and distribution, it's about bringing in product and bringing product out of your building. It's typically used in a storage or manufacturing or trying to bring product in and move things out for different style customers in retail, third-party logistics, manufacturing, and we can cover that later. But the purpose of that is warehouses are big.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of these are over 200,000 square feet, which anything over 200,000 square foot, we usually find good applications for us. And it allows us to take the distance out of movements for customers and allow us to handle that. I always say distance is dollars for our customers. We can save you dollars, allow us to move the distance. The non-value added tasks, that's something that we should do for you.
Distance is dollars.
Distance is dollars.
I kind of like that.
Yeah.
When you're talking customer journey, how do you guys approach that?
Yeah. Typically it's why care? Like, why does the customer even care of this technology for warehousing and trying to hit on their pain, right? And a lot of it is labor, just having labor, you know, it's cost of labor, losing labor. It's all kind of that's primary pain because trying to get new people in and training them is very difficult. And so we start there and understand where can we help in that area. So why us in different areas, like the distance in dollars thing that I referenced earlier is like taking the distance out of the run, making sure it's the right warehouse for us, right applications for us, and how we make it different. It is a connected device. Our goal is to make all our technology, it's like your iPhone. You're always going to be running on the latest and greatest software. It's connected where people are monitoring. We're giving it to you as a service. We're working with you to make sure your productivity is high. And then why now is always kind of at the end. Like when the customer, you know, the biggest reason customers don't buy is fear, to be honest. You know, we have customers that are Fortune 500. We have customers that aren't. But everybody has to be thinking like, I have to do this now because in 2025, it's not going to get any better. There's not going to get much different. There's still going to be competitive areas where you need to use technology to win.
Yeah. So when you talk about AMRs versus AGVs, that actually brings up an interesting question that I have. I see the bots, you know, I see the technology, the spinning things that's on them and all that kind of fun stuff. What about like in their environment? You know, if I'm coming to it from a customer standpoint, what do I have to change in my environment in order to put these in there? Where does the secret sauce lie? Is it in the walls? Is it where is it?
Yeah, it's a good point. So we try to put all the technology on the truck. So there's no wires in the ground, no magnets in the floor, no reflectors on the wall. So the technology is the sensing on the vehicles itself. And then everything is a connected device. So you need wireless, just like the majority of warehouses have, and allows us to connect to the cloud. So we have, you know, it's a cloud-based infrastructure and technology on the robot, but we're not trying to add anything in your building. We're not trying to make it harder for you to do something like this. It's as simple as bringing the robots in, getting them connected, and allow us to do work.
What about if I change? Like in other words, if I'm a customer and I'm adding a new line or I'm adding a new something to where I've got to have more warehouse space or I move my shelves.
Yeah, it's a good point. So, you know, we bring in the robots. We teach them where you want to work and how you want to drive within your building. A lot of the changes we do for customers, we do them remotely. Some of them we do on site if they're big changes. Like if I'm adding a huge new line or reshuffling my warehouse, that's usually a big work for our customer, and they usually get us involved pretty early so we can send somebody out and be a part of that. But if it's small changes like, hey, my pickups were over here and now I want to move them on the other side of the aisle, a lot of that's done remotely through our customer success team.
So it's just remotely. Like I don't need to have you come back and redesign.
It depends on the complexity, sure. but yeah, a majority of it's actually done remotely. Just thinking of all the changes that we've had with our customers this year has been in a remote capacity, or if they wanted something that's just a little bit different, we've come on site, and not just for the changes, but also just to give additional training to them to make sure that they're using the system properly. Because of that turnover we were talking about, a lot of those people have changed a year later.
That's interesting. Yeah. So earlier we were talking about safety, how these things work around humans, making sure they're safe. One of the things that we were talking about kind of offline, if you will, was that we as in our companies are both sitting on safety standards boards that develop these standards that kind of apply to these mobile platforms, to these AMRs. I found that I think that's very interesting.
I think we have to be, because you're providing safety equipment and us trying to use that equipment. We have to understand where the standards are going, and try to set expectations of what our customers expect, because these committees are important, but sometimes they don't know what the reality is, and we kind of have to put those two together. Like, safety's got to be number one. We all agree with that, but making sure it can work in their building is two. So it's kind of getting that 1-2 punch with these standards, and trying to report up to them like, hey, this is what we see in warehousing. We might want to increase safety here. We might want to figure out different ways to make it more safe, or be like, hey, this is actually something that we might want to get closer to objects and things of that nature.
Where does the burden of safety lie?
It depends on countries in a lot of aspects, but it's on both of us. It's on the customer that's getting it. It's on us as the vendor, and you as a supplier of a product, is making sure that we're all responsible to make sure it's safe within a building. That's why, when people ask robots, some people do ask and say, hey, can I just buy robots? Can I install them? It'd be like, wait, that even if we could do that, it's our job to make it safe with you, right? Like, you don't understand the standards. You don't understand all the things that go on to make sure it is safe. And it's not just about how the robot's programmed. It's about signage and marking and training to really make things safe within a warehouse.
This isn't an asset, in other words. This is not an asset you just take and deploy. There's a whole system around it. Yeah. There's a whole process around it.
We sell it as a product, but it's definitely a project. We have a project manager, we have deployment people, we have a trainer, which eventually passes over to a customer success. So that team of people work with the customer, make sure they're comfortable, make sure they're comfortable of how our robots are performing in their building, but also with their people, and not just training first shift, but training second shift and third shift and things of that nature.
You mentioned we're in Waltham, Massachusetts.
Yes.
In this area, you just can't about swing a cat and not hit another AMR or AGV manufacturer. There's a lot up here. So let's say I'm a customer and I need to move forklift. I need to move pallets. But then I need to pick items off of a shelf and stuff like that. I see little bots. I see big bots.
Yeah.
What about getting those to work together? There's an I word that I'm thinking of, and I bet you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So for us right now, we're very focused on pallet size loads. So we move pallets or we move carts, but they're large loads with large robots that we sell. There are companies that make smaller robots. Interoperability is what you're looking at.
Yeah,
we're part of it. So our founder is part of Mass Robotics. Mass Robotics is a standard that is trying to bring robots together, working together. I see interoperability like your cell phone charger back in the 90s. Back in the day, there was a lot of different ways to connect your cell phone with different connectors, right? And I think Mass Robotics, there's a European standard. I can't remember the name right now, but I think you're going to end up with 2 or 3 types of standards, just like your cell phone. You got your USB-C, you got your Lightning connector. We're working our way to that in the next, in the next 5 years. I would like to tell you everyone's adopting it. We're early adopters because our founder's part of Mass Robotics, and we believe passionately that these need to work together. We're hoping more robotics companies follow.
And I think you think passionately about it because it's coming from the customer perspective.
Yeah, they don't just want to move pallets. They want to move other things. I wish we could do everything. We're getting that way. We're chopping at that list. But they want to work with not just us, but other robotic vendors. And part of being tied to an interoperability standard like Mass Robotics is important.
Yeah, cool. So Jeff, when you talk about industries, what are we talking about? Like, what kind of industries are you seeing growth in? Maybe professionally, with you guys, or maybe just in the market in
Gotcha.
general?
Yeah. No, I'll give you the industries. I'd love to give you the customers, but I'd probably get in trouble later.
I'm not looking to get anybody fired.
We move a lot of cool things. Let's just say we move your favorite sneakers. So that could say something. To we move a lot of candy for a lot of different candy companies. Candy, yes.
Really?
Yeah, and some you would know, and some you're like, kind of didn't know.
Wow.
But I'm not a candy connoisseur, so that's a problem.
I don't know, man.
Take it easy. But to car parts for automotive suppliers,
Okay.
and to the big logos that that are electrifying over the next 10 to 15 years. The electric car is a big push, and we're a part of it.
And these guys use you. They trust you.
They trust us.
You've done the same thing. You've educated them. You've come in.
Some of the education always takes longer than I always like, but we have partnerships that have been 2 to 3 years in the making, where we've really built that education, understanding their needs, and applying what we can do to what they want.
And some of us just take a little bit longer, Jeff, to learn.
I know, it's true.
I wish you wouldn't discriminate.
I know.
Jeez. All right. Let's go look at the...
Yeah, let's go look at robots.
Welcome to the bowling alley.
Yes,
Here we are.
this is Vecna's.
The bowels of the building.
This is where we test the technology, try out different applications. We have different obstacles that we put the technology through to ensure use cases and things that.
And thanks for letting us here, because my thing is I want to show, you've seen videos, you've seen pictures. I want to actually, with humans working and seeing and how they work and prove that they're not going to hit me and they're totally safe around workers, and even my skinny little ankles, it's going to pick up and everything. So that's why I really want to come out here and really just kind of see the technology.
Gotcha. Well, as they're getting started, let's come over here and at least take a look at the technology itself. We use a base unicarrier chassis. So this is a base forklift. We add sensors on it to make it, to get all the perception, so to make it driverless or fully robotic. This is the brains of the operation. This has the SICK FlexiSoft with the SICK safety sensors underneath. But this allows us to, make this fully robotic within a warehouse. This is a connected device to the cloud, and it makes it so it's safe and get all the data. Essentially, we take all these different sensors around the vehicle and make it completely driverless.
These things are just churning data, right?
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
If I can, the LiDAR that we have on here, these microscans, they're putting out the safety zones, if you will, but then they're also just churning data, right?
Correct. Yeah. So we leverage the SICK, what they call safety fields that are processed in the safety controller of the vehicle. That's independent. We put another, for lack of better words, another safety layer over the top to allow us to take all that data, and before we even trigger any safety mechanisms, slow down the truck, maneuver the truck, allow all that safety perception or data perception, and do something smart with it.
Cool. So I'm gonna do something funny here. I'm gonna step in front of this thing, and look at there, completely stops.
Yeah. At some point, it's looking for a way to reroute, and it's taking the whole footprint. So if you want to come this way just a little bit, it's looking also at the back perception to make sure we don't clip anything on the backside, but still being able to reroute around us.
It's actually steering around you, Jim.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
And that's what we were talking about, the difference in an AMR and an AGV.
Yep, exactly.
Was that this will find its own route around you instead of just stopping and waiting on you.
Correct, yep, exactly. So if we stick with this robot, this is going through a drop motion. So just kind of actually showing like, hey, we're looking for a deep lane drop within a warehouse, which is very common. They set up buffer lanes, and this allows us to test out some of those buffer lanes, drop it, going 10 pallets deep, staging it for somebody to put into a truck, and away go do another operation.
Huh.
So,
okay,
for people to say, man, this is easy, it's not. It takes 10 years of experience.
You made it look easy
to get this, if not longer.
Yeah.
With Vecna's history, but it's all these different types of use cases. Driving, picking pallets consistently is an important piece. If a pallet is skewed, being able to adjust and pick up that pallet.
Never even thought about
something.
That.
Yeah,
never even thought about that.
The one thing about people is they're not always consistent. So if a person's setting it up, it could be a pallet skewed. We'll look for that pallet opening and adjust to that. Same thing on the drop location. If for some reason we had to make an interesting turn to get around an obstacle, we're going to try to adjust, use our side shift to get it in the proper location so we can maximize space.
Well, again, we appreciate the guided tour of the bowling alley.
No, always welcome.
A little disappointed I can't find a stale thing of beer sitting around.
Wow, another day.
Another day. Well, thanks for having us. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate everyone's kind attention and appreciate your kind hospitality, and can't wait to come back.
Yeah, come on back. We're always developing something new, so I'm excited to have you back.
I'm in.
Later.
I love being behind the scenes.
Fantastic.
It's kind of cool to see that. So thanks again. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you.